WWE is potentially adding a new member to the Bloodline. WWE's plans for SummerSlam have possibly been revealed, and we've got the backstage reaction to the WrestleMania 40 main event. Stay tuned for all the wrestling news. So in the past few weeks, the Bloodline has only grown in strength by literally adding potentially the biggest star in the world of sports and entertainment. I think he's quite correct when he says that.
Yeah.
And of course, referencing The Rock, he's now joined the Bloodline. But there's always talk of the Bloodline growing more because, look, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of members of that Samoan dynasty.
For an all-powerful stable, all I'm going to say is it's very not NWO in here.
No.
I want like 50 members, guys.
You want
need to
all
get
of
to
them.
a point where it becomes so big that it falls in on itself, and then in 20 years we go, where did it go wrong?
When there's more people in the stable than not in the stable.
Yeah.
That's what we kind of want.
Then we have Bloodline Night Raw.
Yeah.
They take over Mondays.
Hollywood Bloodline. I mean, that's kind of the Rock's
Bloodline
branch, isn't
sold
it?
out. Yeah, you just recycle. You already own the NWO stuff.
But on the topic of people, of potential new members, Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week was talking about Tama Tonga. Now, of course, Tama Tonga has just finished up with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and reports have indicated that he is heading to WWE. Now, a lot of people, when they heard that, was going, well, he could be a possible Bloodline member. Now, Meltzer is saying that the idea of Tama Tonga being added to the Bloodline in some form has been considered to happen potentially down the line. Tonga is obviously believed to be WWE bound. We don't know whether he would start in NXT or the main roster. If he's on the main roster, you would assume they would want to put him with the Bloodline. Although he's not technically family, they consider him family.
If we're gonna do the Blood Brother Pact, then for my money, that includes that sort of means that it similarly Tama is related, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think the question you posed there, would he possibly go to NXT? It would be an interesting prospect.
Yeah.
He'd definitely be more along the lines of that kind of Corbin role, like the older professional coming in. I think Tama's straight to the main roster. I think Tama's a shock debut.
Yeah, shock debut post WrestleMania?
I don't know, but I think that you can do it either way. But I think that with Tama, it's one of those where there might be quite a few members of the audience who might not be familiar with him. Haven't consumed New Japan content, so they may not be familiar with him. So I think it's one of those where, sort of like we saw with Solo, right?
Yeah.
Solo just comes out, gets involved, and then it's like anybody who's like, who is this guy? You find out right down the line. But anybody who does know goes mental. And I think Tama coming straight into that spot as an enforcer, as somebody who's, part of the Bullet Club, who has played a very good enforcer role. His brother obviously was with the company Tangaloa as Camacho for a while.
Back with
he's still signed with New Japan, but potentially there's a lot more room to grow, as you said. But I'm very excited at the prospect of Tama. I've seen a couple of people saying maybe he could side with Jay. And it could be like an anti-bloodline.
You could take down the Bloodline from the other side.
Within. Bloodline Wolfpack.
Bloodline Wolfpack. That's exactly what we need. But as Sam said, he's
God though.
That would be a shame to get rid of them. But he's possibly heading to the WWE. As Sam said, he's not an actual member of the Anawahi family, but because it's through blood and blood pacts and all that sort of stuff, they do consider Haku to be a member of the Anawahi family.
When The Rock bought Haku a new truck, he said, "I got this new truck for my Uncle Haku."
Haku.
They're related.
They're related. Yeah. But we're moving on to some. So this is a little bit of an odd one, a bit surprising, because we know that Darby Allin is off to climb Mount Everest, which is just the most Darby Allin phrase ever.
Yeah.
But the Wrestling Observer newsletter has reported that there is some backstage shock in AEW over Tony Khan actually approving him to go and do this. Now, the report states that a lot of people have expressed shock that Tony Khan is letting him do it, given the dangers involved, and he's running sports teams, and sports teams would never allow their players to do something like that due to the risks, not to mention the time away. Allin has revealed that he will be away from AEW programming for 2 months, and he's set to begin this in April. So he's away in a couple of weeks' time to go climb a mountain.
Of the content.
Yeah.
You think Tony's just letting him go to Everest without any cameras, without anybody there to capture something? Or
Coffin drops off the top of...
Yeah. Becomes the champion of Everest. I think that even if it's not one of those things, I think even if it is a personal trip where, there's not going to be a load of content filmed around it, there's not going to be all that stuff happening, like a documentary or something.
Yeah.
I get the comparisons to it's like running a sports team, and I get that Tony does run sports teams, or at least has a hand in running sports teams.
For sure.
And you wouldn't see Fulham letting one of their players go to Mount Everest. You wouldn't see any of the Jaguars letting any of their players go climb Mount Everest, and I get that. But ultimately, wrestling, I guess, has the benefit of the roster is there to fill gaps. And this could be a massive thing for Darby as an individual, for one, as a character, second, right? Like, this guy's literally climbed Everest.
It would be quite insane to be able to say that and have, if you want to take the content angle, plant the AEW flag at the top of Everest.
Yeah.
As the company guy, you've got AEW on the top of Everest. Either way, hopefully
Rock will be there with a helicopter by mid-afternoon.
Hopefully he's safe throughout all of this, because the dangers of climbing Everest are very, very real. But we're going to stick with some Darby Allin adjacent news just now, because of course it's AEW Revolution this weekend, and it's going to be Sting's last match. He's teaming with Darby Allin. Now, the Wrestling Observer has reported that while AEW is able to use New Japan, All Japan, TNA, and possibly Noah footage for Sting's retirement at Revolution, obviously for the video packages, and we all love a video package, don't we?
You need a big emotional video package is often one of the more favoured things as and when they drop among the wrestling fans.
For sure, especially when it's retirements.
Think of the Desire promos, right? Think of My Way. Those things live forever. They'll have a life beyond even the company, probably eventually 100%. One day.
Well, it seems that WWE will not be allowing AEW to use the footage that they own, so all the WCW run off Sting. The report notes that it's not expected that any WWE owned footage would be part of the show, which would include no usage of footage of Sting versus Ric Flair from the Greensboro Coliseum, which is exactly why this pay-per-view is taking place in Greensboro.
You've got to hope that there's somebody out there that has some elements of Sting from the time. Yeah. It's not unexpected. Is it crappy? Yes. Yeah. I think it's a bit of a dick move.
A little bit.
Ultimately, WWE aren't going to do anything that's going to favour
a competitor.
Yeah. They may. You never know. You might see clips, and it might be courtesy of WWE in the bottom corner. It's not outside the realms of possibility, right? But ultimately, it'll feel a bit flat. So you got to hope there's some more content there that can be used to fill that gap. But the only WWE thing I could see them doing is going, here's some footage of Sting, and sending them Sting versus Triple H. But like, I wouldn't be surprised either way. Like, obviously, I'm fully expecting them to not be able to use any footage. But if it does pop up with like, hey,
courtesy of WWE.
Yeah.
Obviously the things can change. This was a report from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which did come out yesterday. So that could change by the time Sunday's pay-per-view comes on.
That, and there is also the element of ringside photographers, Pro Wrestling Illustrated. There's going to be a lot of still images.
For sure.
So I think there's a lot more you can do as well there. So it's not like we might not have any representation
images,
from these eras, but it might just be quite image heavy.
For sure. Well, check that out on Revolution. But staying with pay-per-view plans just now, we've got some news about SummerSlam this year, don't we, Sam?
So a report from WrestleVotes has revealed that WWE is close to finalizing a deal with Cleveland Browns Stadium to host SummerSlam later this year on Saturday, August 3rd. And the report has noted that a formal announcement should be coming in April, probably post-Mania.
Either post-Mania or at Mania.
At Mania
would be a big one to do it. Cleveland's a big city and stadium.
Yeah, Cleveland, we're getting used to the idea of football stadiums just becoming the norm for the Big Four, and I'm all for it. And I want to see, more events getting to that size if possible, because that's just, proof what The Rock was saying last night. Wrestling's cool again, guys.
Yeah.
So I think if we can get as many shows as possible into stadiums, and big stadiums at that, Cleveland is a place I really want to go to. Cleveland.
Yeah, you want to go to Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nine Inch Nails.
Would SummerSlam draw you to Cleveland, Sam?
I want to do a SummerSlam at some point.
Well,
can you do us like a $5 flight and tickets, Nick Khan, somehow, please?
Well, you mentioned The Rock briefly there, Sam. You mentioned The Rock, and PW Insider has got a report as to why the screen kept going black on the Fox version of SmackDown last night. It's a little bit annoying.
It's cringe is what it's cringe.
It's slightly cringe.
It's not. It's completely cringe. The Rock's telling
is.
people they got herpes and he's going to slap it off their lips and the crackheads. they keep cutting to black because somebody in the crowd's got a sign that says "Die Rocky Die."
Yeah, so the network wanted to censor a crowd
hasn't
sign.
watched any of the Attitude Era.
They didn't.
Clearly,
yeah,
the network knows nothing. Doesn't respect your product. Leave Fox. Get out of there.
There was much worse things on in the Attitude Era for sure. But yeah, they kept censoring it. Now this is similar. We saw it.
Go on.
We saw it last week at Elimination Chamber, where Dominic Mysterio was getting cursed at by the crowd, and they blacked the screen out.
This is it. I thought, I was like, oh, we are on the other side of the world. Could it just be sat issues? And it was like, no, it just keeps happening. Like, what's that?
So we had that on SmackDown last night. That explains why the screen kept on going black occasionally throughout that promo, because of a Die Rocky Die sign
So
that
you know
was
what to
being
do. Bring him
held.
to every event. Get him in the crowd,
and then we'll see
hold him up
nothing.
proudly, and then between every Die Rocky Die has got to be a Cody Crybaby sign.
Of course,
been some great Cody Crybaby signs.
There has been some really, really good ones. But staying with The Rock and WrestleMania 40, the Wrestling Observer has reported that the WrestleMania 40 main event is now seen as a blessing in disguise. That's referencing the entire thing that has led to this current main event that we've got. So in the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer suggests that the anger and the fallout of the main event changes has been seen within WWE as a, quote, blessing in disguise, with the belief that The Rock will probably do more now, with his involvement with the Bloodline story likely to continue past WrestleMania, with a potential Rock versus Roman Reigns match, something that WWE can push to in the future. My mind immediately jumps to WrestleMania next year. WrestleMania 41, Rock versus Reigns.
My mind has gone like completely sideways, waiting for an announcement of some form of Steve Austin involvement with WrestleMania, so we get one stare down that goes nowhere.
Yeah.
But a hell of a stare down. Could you imagine? I mean, we're never going to get the match, but could you imagine if we somehow Austin helps Cody to a degree, doesn't help him win it, but helps it, just watches his back, and you get that stare down.
Hear me out, Sam. What if Seth doesn't accept the challenge for the thing that we discussed earlier on the news? Watch the video, and instead the glass shat. It's not going to happen. It's what we want to happen.
And then Cody sits out, Roman sits out, and we get a good match.
Rock versus Stone Cold.
Nobody wants to see those two go at it. Give the belt to one of these two young whippersnappers.
That would be a blessing in disguise. But no, Rock versus Reigns should happen at a WrestleMania just at some point in the future.
I think there's so much you can do here with, say, like if Cody wins the belt and Roman sees The Rock as being the reason for his failure. The Rock doesn't have to be kicked out of the bloodline. It can just become really horrible.
Rock takes over the bloodline.
I want to see Roman put The Rock right down and diminish him and just break him. And then The Rock has to be reminded of who he is.
Who he is, just Dwayne. Yeah. Just a guy named Dwayne.
Comes but anyway. Little pocket protector, nerdy glasses.
That is all the news we have for you today. It's been a big weekend of news. We've got so much content on the channel that you should watch. We've got the 9 pitches for AEW Revolution. We've got the predictions for AEW Revolution. We've got the reactions for AEW Revolution, which is going to take place.
YouTube.com/Cultaholic/live.
Thank you, Sam. It's going to take place tomorrow night at midnight. Join myself and Tom. And of course, we will have What Happened At. We'll have WTF. We'll have all the usual stuff, and of course more wrestling news throughout the day. Go and check out cultaholic.com. We'll see you later on.
Bye bye.